Hi everybody, this is Howard, the Teaser King, coming to you with college football, my first video of 2016. What I do is I look at the returning quarterback. I look at all the teams. So I got a little sheet here with all the teams, all the conferences, and I'm looking basically, are these teams over teams? Are these teams under teams? Are they strong? Are they weak? And I use my Lindy's. This I find to be the best magazine. Phil Steele's I don't like. I think it's really a poor magazine because it doesn't really get into how strong the team is. He's more predicting. He'll predict, South Carolina will go 8-8 because they got 4 games at home. But he doesn't get into how good's the team, strength and weakness. Are they explosive or not? He just misses the boat on that. So Lindy's I find is the best for me, probably the best to learn the teams. So what I'm looking at through Lindy's, the first thing I'm looking at is it gets into quarterbacks, and it says, it goes right here, look at the quarterbacks, top quarterbacks. This is the key. So in the beginning I'm looking at the quarterbacks and I'm studying them, going, okay, who's the best quarterbacks? All right, the kid from Clemson. Excuse me for the names right now. I'm trying to focus on the teams, but kid at Clemson's good. Obviously, the kid at Houston is good. Well, without getting into it, there's a lot of returning quarterbacks that are good. Josh Rosen, UCLA, an example. Ohio State has J.T. Barrett coming back. They should be explosive. So what I'm looking at is, how is the team? Are they strong or weak? Are they high scoring or low scoring? Maybe teams are very strong defensive teams, like a Temple, who has a great defense, and their offense isn't as good. But Temple's offense is getting better because the quarterback's returning. So there's two different categories. There's the great quarterbacks, explosive teams, and there's they don't have a quarterback, and they either have a strong defense or weak defense. So I'm looking, is this team an over team or is this team an under team? Most of the over teams, the biggest over team I see, like if I go right off the list, Tulsa, Central Florida, Houston, Clemson. Then there's like the surprise over team like Syracuse. I watched the coaching change. Well, the Bowling Green coach runs the Baylor offense. And so what he's doing is, he's now went to Syracuse. They're going to run the Baylor offense. And from what I can see, Tulsa runs it, Baylor runs it, Bowling Green runs it, and now Syracuse runs it. And all these teams are explosive, high-scoring teams. So when you're looking at the game, and if you've been following my baseball at all, which I post on my Facebook, my Twitter, and my Teaser King page, and a few of the other betting pages on Facebook, I haven't done videos on baseball. It's just, I've been trying to study my football. But basically what you're looking at is, you either bet, if the aces are pitching, and sorry for the sidebar, then you play the game under, because you don't know which ace is going to win. I have that today. San Francisco has Baumgartner going against whoever, and their team has like a top ace going. I think it's Washington, and they don't have Scherzer going, but they have another. I think they have Rourke going, and they both have low ERAs, and they're both. You can't tell me who's going to win. Actually, I like Baumgartner because he's the dog, and I think they know it, just like in football. But I took the game under because it wouldn't surprise me if Washington won or Frisco won. But I'd be surprised if there was a lot of runs scored. So I do it in football. I look at the quarterbacks. If I have 2 explosive quarterbacks and weak defenses, or even one explosive against a weak defensive team, I'll jump on that, or I'll play the team. So what I'm looking at is mismatches. I'm looking at strength versus weakness, which is my theory in sports betting, and it's very, very successful for all these years. And basically what it's saying is, if I have a strong quarterback and I'm playing a weak defense, bet the strong quarterback. Now I might have a weak quarterback with a very strong defense, or a weak quarterback with a weak defense. So I'm trying to isolate each team, which is what I'm doing here. And I'm basically saying, is this team strong or weak? Are they over or under? And this is basically every team, all, what do we got, 128 teams, and I have all of them there. So like Colorado State, they're an over team. They got a good quarterback. Boise State should be explosive, high scoring. My best is the MAC. I mean, the worst team in the MAC looks like it's going to be Eastern Michigan, Ball State. Western Michigan and Central are going to be high-scoring teams, and then Buffalo, Kent State, Miami are kind of they don't have they're good under teams. So my note on Buffalo: strong defense, no quarterback. My comment on Miami of Ohio: strong defense, no offense. So what you do with those teams when Western Michigan plays Miami of Ohio, it's hard to bet it over, so you probably take Western Michigan in the game. But when you get a team with a weak defense, like Eastern Michigan is weak all over. They don't have much of an offense. They have a terrible defense. So when Western plays Eastern, then you bet Western and you maybe bet it over because Eastern's not going to stop them, depending on what the point spread is. But that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the strongest teams in the division and the weakest teams. And then you're looking, maybe they have a strong defense and no quarterback, or maybe they just have a weak defense. And that's what you get out of reading it. And then I look at box scores and I look at the games as we go. So basically, my favorite over teams are like, I'll quickly go through them. I think Western Kentucky, even though they lost their quarterback, it's Brian Brown, the Louisville. He runs the Louisville offense, and they score a ton of points. So even with the new quarterback, he should be familiar with the system. I like Western Kentucky is a good over. They play Rice the first game. Rice is an over team. I love this game over. Other over teams I like are Indy in the Big Ten. Colorado State should be an over team. They should be a live dog against Colorado. Stanford, teams like Stanford are hard. They're over and under teams, which I'll get into in a minute. Western Michigan, I think, is over. Ohio State should be an over with J.T. Barrett. Bowling Green should be an over. Even though they lost their coach, the replacement coach is going to keep the same offense. Now they lost their quarterback. Now I was surprised he didn't get drafted, but I'm sure he's a free agent somewhere. Johnson from Bowling Green last year. They threw for a ton of yards. West Virginia. SMU should be a big over. Cal runs an over type style. So you'll see why I'm so not really high on Jared Goff, because with this offense, and the coach Sonny Dykes ran at it, I don't remember if it was Tulane or wherever he ran it at, they'd score 40 points a game there. And Cal didn't really score 40 points a game, so it was very confusing. Southern Miss should be an over. Arkansas State runs a very explosive. They lost their quarterback, so we're going to see how the new quarterback, but I think it's mostly the system. Clemson should be an over. Auburn depends on the quarterback, so they might start slow, but if they get the right quarterback, that Auburn style is an over. UCLA with Rosen should be an over. Tulsa runs the Baylor offense. They're an over team. Tennessee's an over team. North Carolina, their coach is a very aggressive. They should score a lot of points. Oklahoma's an over, and Houston's an over, and they play each other. I haven't seen the over-under yet. Oklahoma's favored by 9.5. I love the game over. The over hopefully will be in the 50s. That game will go way over. Oklahoma's overrated. I'm sorry. Perrine's okay. He's not Leonard Fournette, and Baker Mayfield's okay, but it's still Oklahoma. So Houston's a very good team. It's like Ohio State with the Herman as from the Ohio State as Houston's coach. Oklahoma will not blow out Houston in this game, and I think Houston can win the game. Nebraska's an over team. Boise's an over team. Arizona's an over team. BYU has two really good quarterbacks. Could be an over team. Keep an eye. Northern Illinois is an over team. Notre Dame is an over team. Texas could be an over team. They have a really good quarterback, supposedly, but I'm not a big Texas fan. They haven't shown me anything. But we'll see how they do against Texas. Ole Miss should be an over team. They got a great quarterback. They got great receivers coming back. Now, there's a lot of teams that are over or under teams, like a USC. If they played a weak team, they'd be an over. But when they play Alabama, I expect this game to go under. Alabama is a prime example of a great under team, but in certain games they'll pile it on, or they'll get, like against Michigan State, they got interceptions, punt returns, all the bullshit scoring, and they ended up scoring a lot, but really I think it ended as an under anyway. But when you got a really strong defensive team, you're going to get more unders. And so, like when Missouri plays South Carolina, I think there's a big under here. South Carolina plays Vandy the first week. That's an under game, because you're looking at two teams with decent defenses and no offenses, and those are what you're looking for. So you look at your under teams. Here's my top 10 of strong defenses: Florida, Michigan State, Michigan, Alabama, LSU, Florida State, Boston College, TCU, and UCLA. Possibly USC gets in that, but I at this point no. Those teams are always like, if they play strong teams, they're under. When Michigan plays Ohio State, that will be an over. And Michigan has a great defense. I'm sure they'll have a great offense, because Harbaugh will coach the quarterback up. So you don't worry about the new quarterback. If it's O'Korn from Houston, he was really good as a freshman. They got great receivers, Butts, they got running. Michigan's just a strong team now. I'd be surprised if they don't make the playoffs. After getting killed by Ohio State, and Ohio State lost all their players, I think that Michigan can beat Ohio State. They'll definitely beat Michigan State. Michigan State's quarterback looked okay in spring practice, but their secondary's been horrific since Darquez Dennard left a couple years ago. When they won the Rose Bowl over Stanford, they had a top 5 defense. And then Narduzzi leaves, and their secondary, Baylor lit them up for 100 points. Oregon lit them up for 100 points. Last year, how they beat Ohio State, it's just the rain. And then, they get against Alabama now. Their secondary was terrible. So right now they have secondary problems. Until I see better, like Notre Dame will light them up. I'm not saying Notre Dame will win, but Notre Dame will light them up. So teams like Michigan State, you don't know how they are. At this point, they're probably an under team. Very good defense. I don't know about the quarterback, and they're going to run the ball. They got great running backs, and they have a great line. And so it's teams like Michigan State that grow on you. Like the last year, they were over team all over the place, because Connor Cook would throw 100, for 1,000 yards and all these points, and their defense couldn't stop the win, like against Nebraska, against Oregon. Michigan put up 23 on them. They are live dogs, and they're a very good coach team. Michigan State, for whatever reason, is underrated, and I can't figure out why, but I take advantage of it anytime they're a dog. They'll be a home dog against Michigan, and this will be a very interesting play by me. See how the quarterback develops. It could be an underplay, or it might just be take the home dog. I don't know yet. So that's what I'm looking at first. So I'm looking at the quarterbacks. I'm looking, Western Kentucky's got a great quarterback. We're going over with the team. So I have it by conference. I don't really want to bore you with just saying, I pretty much told you the overs I had. There might be a few other overs. And then you got teams like LSU, who, if they get a quarterback. So here's what you do. In the beginning, the quarterback. You're going to take Clemson. You're going to take Houston, Oklahoma. Baylor's they're a great over. TCU, we're not sure of. I think they're going to have a great defense this year. If their offense goes, they'll smoke Oklahoma. Baylor, I don't know. Is Bryles still the coach or not? I'm not sure of that one. If he got let go or he's still there. Either way, Baylor is very explosive, and look out for them. Um, San Diego State's a very big sleeper. Um, in There's two ways you got to play these games. When you get like the MAC, when they play Michigan and Michigan State and Notre Dame or these other big schools, it's one thing. Then when they're in conference, it's a whole different ball of wax. So what I'm trying to say is, like, Western Michigan will go over when they play Akron and when they play Northern Illinois and Central Michigan and Eastern Michigan. But if they go to Ohio State, they're not going to score 40 points. So it's a little bit different animal. So you got to watch that in conference, out of conference. And my one key for the bigger conference playing the littler conference, like the SEC, I've been locking like Mississippi State against Southern Miss the last few years, and teams like that, or TCU or Baylor against SMU. And the key to that is they can't afford to lose to these little teams anymore because of the playoff system. So they kill them. So when you get a Baylor playing SMU or a weaker team, then you end up taking the Baylor or the Mississippi State or the Ole Miss to blow them out, because they have to win the game. They're going to play tough, and they're going to win. So that's what you really look for. But then when they get in conference, then it's a whole different animal. And I like the MAC. There's a lot of mismatches in the MAC that makes it a very good conference to bet on. Same thing in the Sun Belt. In the Sun Belt, the best two teams are Arkansas State and Appalachian State and Georgia Southern. Who would know that, right? The worst team is Texas State. New Mexico State has this great running back. Does anybody know that? So it's hard to pick New Mexico State. They got a great running back and no defense. So when they play this out of conference, see what happens. When they play in conference, they're going to run the ball a lot. They can't stop it. So you got to look at the over-under number. You know, if you see it in the 40s or the 50s, you know, you can go over on most of these teams. When you see them at 70, it's different. So you almost got to look at the game. Like here, Indiana plays Florida International. That's the first one. Indy's laying 8. I love the game over, but it depends on what the spread. If the spread comes at 50, I'll love it over. If it comes in at 70, I won't love it over. So you got to almost put it in where you want to go over with the game. Same thing, Rice and Western Kentucky. I love the game over, even though Western Kentucky has a new quarterback. But again, you got to watch and see what the over/under is. If they make it 75, you might bet it, but it's a very small bet. If they make it 60, you love it over. So again, you got to watch that. And the ironic thing is, in the pros, their over/unders are way out of line. The Rams will play the 49ers, and they'll make the over/under like 41 or 42, and it shouldn't be anywhere near that. It should be like 37, because neither team has an offense, and both teams, well, Frisco used to have a good defense when Harbaugh was there. And so that's what you would do. You would play the game under, and that's where I love the teaser, because that gives you that extra 6 points in case there's that late touchdown. But it tends to be the over teams. The over-unders in the pros go from like 39-40 up to like 49-50. And the 50 should be 55. Like week 1, New Orleans plays Oakland, two good explosive teams. That over-under should be 55, but it's 50. You tease it down to 44. I mean, that's no problem. That's 44 is 24-20 for Oakland, who's going to score, and New Orleans at home scores a ton. They might get there by themselves. But they don't go to the 60s in the pros like they should. And that's what I see. But in college, they'll throw you anywhere from 40 to, I've seen 78, 79. When Baylor plays TCU, it's the 77, 78. Cal and Washington State, explosive teams. Yeah, that's a few I didn't mention. They're either not playing week 1 or they're playing like some high school team. So other teams, and let me just go through the conference, the best overs. Tulsa, USF, Cincinnati, and Houston, and SMU. In the AAC and the ACC, it's Clemson, Syracuse, Miami, North Carolina. Watch Virginia Tech. They got Memphis's coach, who was a very explosive offense. Look for them to change. Ohio State, Indiana, Nebraska are over teams. Possibly Illinois. They got a good quarterback in Lunt. The Big 12, it's about the whole league. Oklahoma, Baylor, Oak State, TCU, West Virginia, and Texas Tech. Especially when they play each other, it's over. Conference USA, Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, Florida International, Southern Miss. I got Rice as an over, but it's more because they got a weak defense than they have a strong offense. In the SEC, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Auburn if the quarterback's there, and Texas Tech, and I'm not sure about A&M. In the Sun Belt, Arkansas State, Georgia Southern, Idaho, Southern Alabama, New Mexico State. In the MAC, Bowling Green, even though their coach went, they still are going to run the Baylor offense. Western Michigan, Northern Illinois, Central Michigan, possibly Toledo, possibly Ball State, but only because they have a weak defense. In the Independents, Notre Dame, strong offense. BYU should be a strong offense. Mountain West, San Diego State, San Jose State, Nevada, UNLV because they have a weak defense. Boise has an explosive offense. Colorado State. Wyoming has this really strong running back, Hill. Keep an eye on him. It'll probably make more unders. They'll just ball control it more. But they don't really have a strong defense. And in the Pac-12, Washington, Oregon, Washington State, Cal, USC if they have a quarterback, UCLA with Rosen, Arizona State, and Arizona. Those are my over teams per conference. Some of the teams are over because they have a weak defense. Most of these are over because they have a great quarterback and an explosive offense. So there's always a little bit of, are they over because they can't stop the win, or are they over because it's the Baylor offense they're running? I'm actually surprised that the pros aren't picking up this Baylor offense. It's ingenious. What it is instead of the option play where you fake to the fullback, the quarterback has the ball, he reads the end drops down, he pitches it out to the halfback, and the halfback, he gives him the ball, and the halfback goes around end. What Baylor does, they do it the same, but only they're passing the ball. So they might fake it to the fullback, and they read the defensive end, and they read the safety. If the safety comes up to put 8 in the box, he throws the ball to the receiver doing a slant or a square in. If the safety stays back, then there's not 8 in the box, he runs the ball. It's one of the smartest offenses I've ever seen in my life, and I've been seeing them for 50 years. Very strong. Look what they did without a quarterback. They ran for 800 yards against North Carolina in a bowl game. Just unbelievable, great coaching. And you can see more and more teams, Syracuse, Tulsa, Bowling Green, all running the Baylor offense. And it's really, if you need an offense, that's what you go to. It used to be Oregon's, but that spread offense is, I don't think it's a big deal anymore. It's surprising Oregon can't find a quarterback. They keep finding these junior college Division II quarterbacks. Adams, he's good. He'll be a good pro if anybody's smart enough to take him. And then this kid this year is another one. So what you do the first week is look at the box scores. And you got to look at against who they play. So in other words, I don't know, if Toledo's playing Florida and the guy for Toledo throws for 350 yards against Florida or Georgia, these SEC teams play these weak teams, it means more than the conference games. So a lot of the stats are skewed based on who they played. If they play William and Mary and the guy throws for 400 yards, I wouldn't even care. I mean, I might note that the quarterback threw for 400 yards, but again, it's against William and Mary. What did they do against LSU? Now, if Wisconsin's quarterback comes out and throws for 400 yards against LSU, then I will take note, because LSU secondary is always 3 or 4 pros in it, and you can move on them, then, great for you. That's one game I just see LSU beating Wisconsin. Um, Good luck stopping Furman out. I mean, and if they get any type of quarterback, look out. And the game's in Green Bay against Wisconsin. Wisconsin's the same. They're going to run. They're going to play defense. But if LSU had a quarterback, they'd win. They'd beat Alabama all the time. Alabama's kind of skewed because everybody thinks they have great players, and they really don't. None of them do anything in the pros. I know there's a few. I don't need the email saying, oh, what are you talking about? You look, very few people, very few defensive players from Alabama that do anything in the pros. It's a system. I've said it over and over. They're running the 72 Steelers system. It's great against the run, but anytime you get like an Auburn scheme where the quarterback's running around, or Johnny Manziel, or Ole Miss where Kelly runs around, they give up 40 points a game. They're good against teams that run at them, like Michigan State tried to do. So basically, I don't buy all this Alabama. They might be number one, but the SEC's got very few good quarterbacks besides Kelly, which is surprising. Like, why can't they draft quarterbacks? I mean, Florida's got a great offensive coach. He had a better quarterback at Colorado State. Georgia, once in a while they get one. Missouri, they can't throw the ball. Auburn, we'll see. And then Kentucky might have one. Tennessee's got a decent quarterback. But that's it. And so SEC rolls through because they just stop the run is all they do, and they run the ball. And they play LSU. It's a 7-6 game or something, and they seem to get enough out of it to win. But I don't buy that. I don't buy Ohio State should be good. I mean, I'm going to give you a lock just because I'm like to make people money. Ohio State's from the first line I see is Oklahoma 12 over Ohio State. I'm going to make sure I'm in Vegas that weekend, and I'm going to make sure I have a lot of money, and I'm going to make sure it's all bet on Ohio State. There's no way Oklahoma blows out Ohio State. That'll never happen. Urban Meyer does not get blown out by teams like Oklahoma. I don't care. There's no freaking way. As long as Barrett is healthy, they reload just like they get fast guys. Their defense will be fine. Their system is good, and they're good against passing teams. So you got to be kidding. 12 points. Anytime you take Ohio State, they could be playing the Lions or the Bears. You would take Ohio State in 12. Give me a freaking break. Absolutely love Ohio State in 12. I like Houston in 9.5 against them. Oklahoma doesn't. Okay, maybe they have a decent quarterback, but he's not better than Baylor's. He wasn't better than Boykin and TCU. He's not better than the Clemson quarterback. So I don't get all this Oklahoma hype. That's all bullshit. That's like Alabama. They're just hyping Alabama. Oh, they're number one. Bullshit. No quarterback, no running back. And look how good their running backs do in the pros. Trent Richardson is gone already. I mean, very few players from Alabama do anything. It's all system. It's a good system. It's a defense, and we're going to run the ball down your throat. So you get good linemen. And in college, that's a big thing, but not in the pros. It just doesn't matter. So anyway, those are my teams. I enjoy talking, so I rumble on, but I don't. I'm trying to feed information out, and I'm a little unsure. I don't really want to go conference by conference, even though I told you the over teams and the high scoring teams. We can go from there, but I just look at it like that. I look at teams like UCLA with Josh Rosen and very good defense. He'll find receivers. It's UCLA. It's Jim Mora. They're very well coached. And I'll tell you this, all the teams with the good, you watch the coaching. Look at Michigan with Brady Hoke, and he basically has all this talent, and he can't win. And then Harbaugh comes, and you got Peppers, and you got this great Jordan at cornerback. You got Butts at tight ends, all of a sudden with Harbaugh there, he can take my cousin and make him a good quarterback. I mean, anybody. Yeah, my cousin's a girl, by the way. So, I mean, he can take that and off you go. So it's just a matter of who the coach is. You bet the coach is very important. Like Harbaugh will develop the quarterback. I'm not worried about it, especially if it's O'Korn from Houston. He's a star. He'll be All-American once Harbaugh's done with him. So that's really all you look at. Watch the first 2 or 3 weeks, and I'll keep you tuned in. Basically, you're watching, but like that's how I found Western Kentucky last year. or 2 years ago, the first game they put up 700 yards against, I don't know, we were playing Middle Tennessee or something. You put up 700 yards, that's the team I'm looking for to go over. And then you got teams like Missouri and Vanderbilt and Wake Forest who couldn't score 10 points a game. So those are teams. Now I'm watching the coaches. They got a new coach. The thing that happens in college, all of a sudden the freshman comes out in week 5 because the first couple of weeks they don't score, right? And then the coach goes, shit, we can't score. Let's go to the freshman. He's supposedly very good. And then he comes in and nobody has film on him, and he lights it up for a couple of weeks. And then once the film's out, he doesn't do anything. But that's where you get blindsided those 2 or 3 weeks when they switch quarterbacks, and all of a sudden, boom, here it goes. So you just got to be careful with that. Basically that's what I'm looking at. Don't get caught up in the hype. Alabama's not number 1. There's no such thing at this point. They haven't played anybody. This whole preseason ratings is bullshit. All I can tell you is Alabama will be again, it depends on their quarterback and their running back. They'll be strong with their defense, but I think Ole Miss will beat them again because I think Ole Miss knows how to beat them. Kelly's back. It's Jim Kelly's nephew. He'll be fine. So you just keep an eye on that. You then look at you look at the matchups as you go, and you try to develop the matchups. You look for the weak defenses. So when Western Kentucky plays Texas San Antonio's got a weak defense and a new coach. When Western Kentucky plays Texas San Antonio, or when they play North Texas, you bet a fortune on Western Kentucky. That's when you lock it. You lay 30 points. They're going to kill them. Same thing when Southern Miss plays these teams. Middle Tennessee has a strong offense. That's what you're looking for. You don't really want to mess with Western Kentucky against a really good defensive team. Although I don't think I see one in their conference. Florida International is weak. Rice is weak. Maybe Southern Miss is okay. Maybe Marshall. I got Marshall with a weak defense. But when they play a team with a strong, let's say Western Kentucky played Utah, who's always has a strong defense, then you stay away from Western Kentucky. They even went and they lost LSU like 48-28 or something like that. They got in the 20s against LSU. That tells me a lot with Brandon Doherty, and they went and they rolled everybody at the end. But anyways, like Toledo's normally got a good defense. Temple has a good defense. So when teams have strong defenses, you got to be careful with the explosive teams because they're going to, they're going to shut them down. A good defense will always shut down a good offense. So you got to be careful with that. All right, I guess that's about it. I'll have week 1 coming out very soon. I've already kind of looked at it. Again, it's the new quarterbacks. In the beginning, I want to bet the returning quarterback who's strong, who's been there, Clemson, Houston, Oklahoma, Baylor, all with the strong quarterbacks coming back. They're going to light it up, especially early. You can trust them. They've done it. It's the unproven, how's Auburn's quarterback going to be? If he's really good, Auburn's going to roll. And if he's really bad, Auburn's going to suck. But you don't know that at this point. Same thing with Missouri, Florida, Alabama. He's probably pretty good. LSU. If LSU has a good quarterback, they're the national champs. Nobody can stop. If they have a balanced attack, good quarterback, they have great pro receivers every year, and they got Fortnite. And then if you have a balanced attack, you can't put 9 men in the box against Fortnite. They'll just eat you alive with their receivers. So like Beckham Jr. went there. I mean, all these guys that are really good went to LSU, and they're really fast. So how do you play defense against them and Fortnite? You can't. LSU will not lose, and they have a great defense. They always have a great pass rush, and they always have great secondary guys. So you can't mess with LSU if they have a quarterback. Last time they had a quarterback, they won the title. I think it was Zach Mettenberg. Since then, they've had terrible quarterback. And you don't understand is why they can't have good quarterback. I mean, how hard is it? Here's a stud from Texas or Florida or California. throw them in and off you go. I mean, Baylor finds all these quarterbacks coming out of the woodwork. So does TCU. Texas, they don't know what they're doing. Texas Tech has a good quarterback, Mahomes. Washington State, Cal. I mean, it's not that hard. So, I mean, why LSU struggles finding a quarterback, I have no idea. Same thing with Alabama, if they ever had a good quarterback. Florida's got this great defense. Georgia, it'll go perfect with Gurley, but, you know, maybe they have one, maybe they don't. But that's what you watch the first few weeks. Watch the box scores. I'll come out and I'll do videos on, here's the box scores from week 1, and here's what impressed me, and here's what surprised me. And basically I'm looking at, you know, 31 of 40 for 360 yards and 3 touchdowns and no picks. When you see a bad quarterback, he throws 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Once they do that, you know you got a bad quarterback. There should always be more touchdowns than interceptions. I mean, unless you're playing like in Alabama, then you understand it. But if you're playing Rice and you have 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, you got a bad quarterback. All right, everybody. Well, this is the Teaser King coming to you. My picks have been great in baseball. My locks have been over 90%. I just basically am posting them on my webpage, my Howard Robbins and my Teaser King page on Facebook, and a few other pages in Facebook. If you're on any of the handicapping pages, I try to also post, and I'll copy the video into there. But basically, it's you either want, if the teams are even, you bet the under or the over, and if one team is much better than the other, you bet the team based on the spread. And in baseball, it's the same. Like I said, if the 2 aces are pitching like Frisco today, I'm taking the under. If the 2 5s are pitching, I'm taking the over. And if an ace plays a 5, I play the ace. And that's it. I mean, it's simple and very effective. You watch for streaks. There's a play, Minnesota, I think, has gone over the last 7 times. I'm playing Minnesota over today. And they're not facing a real ace, so they should go over. And I do the same with football. If a team's rolling, and the key with football is watching the injuries. A quarterback goes out, you don't know how good the second quarterback is, so don't just jump on it. But you watch the injuries and things like that, and you watch the streaks. It's all about streaks. All right, everybody, well, have a great day. I'm off to the pool so I can do some more studying. And this is www.teaserking.com. Have a great summer. Football is just around the corner. A few more weeks, and we'll be there. All right, everybody. Please let me know if you have comments. Feel free, but please just give nice comments. I don't like derogatory words or comments that they're not helpful to anybody. And just put your point across. Howard, I disagree with you on Western Kentucky being an over. Then give a reason. I give you a reason why. So, I mean, if you don't like a comment, just say it, but be nice, be adult, be professional. That's what I try to be, and that's what I expect from my clients. So please do that. All right. So anyway, check the site out, www.teaserking.com. If you want to buy the year, you can buy the locks. I was 82% of my locks last year. And you can buy my season package, you know, so you can get all the whole year, or you can just buy it by the month or week as it goes. So again, www.teaserking.com. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.